show that we help parents of high school and college students just understand the college planning process and just making it simpler for people. My name is Kristin Clark. I'm a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, and I help students figure out a career path which ultimately leads to a major. And the reason this is helpful for parents is because we can also get your child through a 6-year, or I'm sorry, a 4-year college education in 4 years versus the 6 that it's taking people. I'm here with Bobby Hood. Bobby, how are you today?
Just great. So I'm Bobby Hood. I'm a tutor for the SAT and ACT, so I work with lots of high school students. I also tutor elementary and junior high students, sometimes for the ISE and SSAT, and I work with college students for the GRE, GMAT, LSAT, MCAT, those tests to help them prepare for graduate school. So yeah, we're here to help kind of untangle the college planning process. And it's just so complicated, and helping people just take one question at a time and realize that it doesn't have to be as complicated as people make it. And yeah, I mean, things are going as well as they can be in this strange time, and that's what we wanted to talk about today, right? Is high school parents and families right now are trying to figure out what in the heck is going on with the SAT and ACT, right? And so I guess you're lucky that you don't have to think about that right now, right?
I know, but it's confusing because now they're canceling these tests, right? So
Right.
how is that affecting everybody?
Well, so yeah, it's just been really strange because I mean the first thing that's happened is the March and April and June tests have been canceled for the SAT and ACT. And so all of the students that were preparing for all of those tests are kind of in limbo right now, because either they were prepared already and they were ready to take it, and then they're saying, okay, do I keep preparing and try to keep my skills up, or do I stop and then wait and then prepare again, right? So that's one thing that's really strange. But then also there's been just this crazy uncertainty and confusion of announcements from colleges about things that may or may not happen next year, right? So the first thing, I guess, is the primary students that this matters for are, well, the students are going to be seniors next year who are just finishing up their junior years right now. So those are the class of 2021. Those are the students who this is an urgent matter for. And the first thing I think is, since the primary issue here for our show is untangling things, right? So the most important thing for people who are listening, and just a comment up front to those of you who are, if you've joined us live, you can type a question in the chat window and we will respond to it. If you are watching this on YouTube, we'd always appreciate it if you would type into the chat window like rewatch or replay, like hashtag, what is it, replay?
It's hashtag replay.
Replay, right? So that people know that you're watching it now. That keeps the video alive on YouTube, and so that people see that it's being watched. That's something that keeps keeps it, in lists so that people keep watching it. And you can always, of course, at the end of the video, we'll talk about how you can get in contact with us and ask us questions about this. So we want to talk about just some simple questions to untangle things, and then you can always get in contact with us. Okay, so back to where we were. The first question that's important to untangle this is that a lot of colleges have announced that they are going test optional for the class of 2021. And that also may mean that a lot of colleges are going to go test optional, possibly for several years or maybe even permanently. And so this is the first thing that we got to really talk about, because you got to think about exactly right. Yeah, you got to think about what test optional means. And the most important example, I think, is the entire University of California system has announced that they will be test optional for the class of 2021. And so what test optional means, and you have to kind of be careful about exactly what they're saying. They're saying that if you do not submit an SAT or ACT test, that this will not hurt your chances at being admitted. So they will evaluate your application only based on your GPA and your classes, strength of schedule, all of those other things, right? Your recommendation letters and all that. And they will evaluate only based on that and not sort of ding you for not having any test scores to submit. So that's a really, really good thing, because if you don't have the opportunity to take a test, right, then you can go and do this without taking a test. And that's really important, because there are a lot of people nationwide who, because of this situation, they may not have access to the ability to be able to get to take a test, right? So that's important, right? But
hold on, I've got a question around that.
Yeah.
So for the people that have already taken
the
test and have already submitted the test,
right,
then they're not going to have a chance to increase scores. Can they retract their test?
So, well, okay, so for the class of 2021, they wouldn't have, well, I guess theoretically they might have already submitted scores to a school, but it'd be a little unusual that a junior would already have taken a test and submitted it. They might have, right?
Okay.
But when you fill out your application, right, you're going to say, here are my scores, right, and you submit them and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think, I think the answer is still, if you have scores, I think that the answer is still, if you have scores, you still have to submit all of them. I think that's still the answer, right? Which is an interesting thing, because that's generally the requirement. Most schools require that you submit all your scores. Now, this is where things get a little weird, because there is an option with both SAT and ACT called score choice or something like that. It's a different name for each of the tests, but where you can pick and choose which scores you submit. But a lot of schools require that you submit all your scores. But can they tell that you did that? You don't, so there's perhaps a game that can be played there. But of course, if they require that you submit them all, you need to submit them all, because in the wake of the college admissions scandal last year, nobody wants to be breaking any rules of college admissions, right? But the much more important, I think, than that whole thing is that while it's true that you have to look at what they said, it won't hurt your chances of admissions if you don't submit tests, right? That's a very carefully worded statement. Think about what the opposite of that is. If you submit good test scores, it will help your chances of admission. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. That was part of
it won't. Right.
Yeah, that was my next question is, then why take it at all?
Exactly. So you can still submit them.
Okay.
They're not saying, now there are a few schools out there that have said, in the sense of fairness, we are not going to look at any test scores at all, as in no test scores will be considered for any applicant. There are very, very few schools that have done that. No large, like, ranked big schools that I know of have done that, right? That's a different question. If they did that and you have no scores, now that's a school if you have no tests, or if you have one really bad test score, right, or something, and you're not going to be able to take it again, maybe that's the school you want to apply to, where nobody can submit a test, right? But that's a different ballgame. And the point is, they are going to be looking at test scores, right? If you happen to have a 1590 on the SAT or a 35 on the ACT, that's still going to help you get admitted, right? Those students are still going to have an edge in the admissions process. It's just that the students who don't have test scores are going to not be hurt, as in they will have an equal opportunity in that middle of the road, so it's the college application process will still work at the beginning the way it works, which is they're going to take the first round of applicants and evaluate whatever information is on there. And so if they have, for instance, a valedictorian who has a perfect GPA and all of these things, but no test scores, but they got a 4.5 on in every class they ever took, well, they're going to admit that person, even if they have no test scores. Right.
Well, and you'd think that this is kind of a little bit of a strategic play now, in that if you are that kind of student that, you know,
Right.
we're resting on what you've already accomplished, but then now you've got maybe a student that's middle of the pack, they're probably going to want to submit these scores if they can get decent scores in that, right?
Right. Now, so this is the other piece, right? So it is possible that test scores maybe don't matter as much for admissions to some schools, but the one thing they didn't say anything about is merit aid or need aid or any of that, right? Well, need aid should never matter, but merit aid, they did not say test scores are not going to affect merit aid. So you may be able to get admitted with no test scores, but when they get around to that stage in February where they start deciding who gets how much money scholarship wise, right? They're going to be looking at test scores to decide who gets those big scholarships.
So let me chime in on that, Bobby. And hi, Carmen. I'm glad that you're listening in. And if you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'd be glad to answer anything. But so, Bobby, when I look at assured scholarships, the bulk of those are based on what is your GPA and what's your ACT or SAT score. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do a worksheet for my clients that gives them just all the different assured scholarships throughout all the colleges that they typically would go to in a certain area. And the colleges have got to be looking at that and making adjustments.
Yeah, and so I think you're going to see it, but it hasn't happened yet. But you haven't suddenly seen, for instance, like, you know, state schools with their, if you score a 31 on the ACT, then you get in-state tuitions money instead of out of state. We haven't suddenly seen the ACT and SAT scores disappear from those rules, right? It's possible that they might, but it's unlikely. Right. Because they're not going to just set GPA numbers, because GPAs are too loosey-goosey high school to high school. You can't just say if you have a 4.1 GPA, that doesn't work, because GPAs are all over the place. They have to have a standardized number, and the only standardized numbers you have are ACT and SAT scores. So the point is, you still need the score. You still need the test score if you can get it, right? Okay, so that's step one of this whole thing, is don't think that because some schools have gone test optional that means blow off the tests. You still need them if you are interested in paying less than full tuition price for school, right?
Well, so you said they've canceled March, April, May, June.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very normal for a high school student to take those tests all the way through this time next year, right?
Yes. Okay. Now, so now we're still talking class of 2021, right? So that's seniors, the students who are juniors. So they're going to be graduating next year, right around this time, right?
Mike, let me be clear in the question.
Yeah.
They're going to have ample opportunity to take these tests.
So the students who are juniors right now and are going to be seniors next fall, right? The application process opens, early applications will open in September, October, right? The normal application process opens in November, closes in, somewhere in, January or something like that. So, I mean, normally you'd really like to have your SAT and ACT all done. You'd really like to have it done in June of junior year. But then if you have to clean up on it and, keep taking it, then it's kind of no fun, but you take it in July for the ACT, the summer after your junior year, before your senior year, August for the SAT, Then you have the fall of your senior year. You're trying to clean up and get that last score so that you can submit those scores when you apply November 1st. Because, I mean, to have the best possible college application, you should submit it the day that college applications open, November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're going to apply early decision or early action, earlier than that. So, I mean, these seniors would really like to have their scores done by November 1 if they can. But yes, this year, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about. This year, all bets are off, right? For the college seniors, they're going to be able to do colleges are going to understand all sorts of flexible behaviors. But so yeah, that's the question. When did they take it? Oh, okay. So I see. So Julie. Okay. So Julie, the June test has not officially been canceled. So Julie Sanford Clark, can you pop that question up on the screen for us? So Julie, thank you for asking that. So Julie, the ACT, actually, let me look real quick just to see if it has, like, literally while we've been talking. Yep. So it is still, as of today, right? June 13th is still officially an ACT test date. The SAT has canceled the June test. The June 7th, the June 6th SAT has been canceled. ACT has not canceled the June 13th test, although everyone in the tutoring community is actively waiting for ACT to cancel the June test. We're expecting them to, but they have not officially canceled it yet. We literally were expecting it to happen in the last week or two. And so now this is exactly the time, Julie, and let me know if this answers your question. So Julie, I'm going to talk about that a little more. So what ACT did is announce a couple of weeks ago that ACT has the June test and the July test, and they put out a very strange announcement a couple of weeks ago that said that they are adding an additional test a week after each test. So there is a June 13th and a June 20th alternate date the week after the June 13th. And then there's the July ACT test. And then there's an alternate date the week after the July test. And all four of those are apparently supposed to be ACT test dates, all four of which you can register for. I don't understand why they're doing that exactly, because, the COVID-19 situation, I don't understand why 1 week would make any difference to any of that. But that's what they announced, and that's a very confusing announcement. So we don't know what exactly that means, and that's part of what is so frustrating about the situation. But that's where we are with ACT, is they have these theoretical 4 testing dates, 2 in June, 1 week apart, 2 in July, 1 week apart. The August SAT date in August is not yet open for registration, but that supposedly would be the first ACT or SAT test date. And then what both SAT and ACT have announced is that starting in the fall, when all these juniors who are now going to be seniors, are going to need to make up for all these missed tests and try to get those scores, hopefully before November 1st, so that they can apply to colleges. They have announced 2 important things. They are going to add more national test dates, as in the regular Saturday tests that normally just happen every 2 months. They say that they will add more test dates that are national Saturday tests that occur in high schools on Saturdays. They say they will add more of those. They say they are also going to add more in-school special school test dates, which is those test dates where you just hear from the school, oh, my student is going to be taking the ACT on Wednesday a month from now. And they can sign up for that if they want to take it during school. The school has to pay ACT or SAT to do that, but it is something that's offered. It's a real test. It's administered by the teachers at the school. They are going to offer more of those this fall, they say, than they did in the past, to make up for these missing things. And then the crazy, insane new thing that both of them have announced is that they are going to both start offering at-home electronic SAT and ACT tests that you can take on your computer at home, just like the AP tests that the SAT is about to be, or that College Board is about to be doing. And so my understanding, and again, this is like a complete unknown because all they've said is that there will be at-home electronic tests. The theoretical thing that would happen there is you would be required to have a laptop and Wi-Fi, and they would use an app that's like what it's called is UProctor, which has been used for years for like if you wanted to be certified to be like a medical technician or something, you would take your licensing test at home and you would have a webcam that's looking at you from the front and another webcam that's looking at you from the side, and an actual human proctor watches you the entire time you're taking the test. They're probably watching 100 people on little windows, and they watch, and if you literally like look out the window or look away from the computer screen, they literally press a button and say, stop doing that or I'm going to void your test for cheating. And they look at your table and make sure you don't have a phone on your table or in your lap or something like that. And you theoretically take the test at home. This is how the GMAT is now being given at home. This is how the LSAT is now being given at home that way, the GRE. So
when will,
that's
Robbie, when will that start, did you say? That you can do it at home?
They say in the fall. The
Okay.
ACT was already planning in the fall to debut its new electronic testing where you would go to one of those testing centers where you would take the GMAT or the GRE, like a Pearson Diagnostic Testing Center. Like in Dallas, there's one in an office building off of Central Expressway at like, like Walnut Hill, one of those, brick office buildings. And you go in there, and there you would, what you were going to be allowed to do starting this fall is go in and take just the science section or just the reading section of the ACT to just bump up your score on one section. So that was what we were all excited about, this weird new thing the ACT was going to let you do this fall. So they were already preparing an electronic version of the ACT. Now it's just going to be somehow you can take it at home. It sounds like a really easy thing for them to mess up really bad. All of tutoring for the SAT and ACT is all about, a big part of it is taking your pencil and marking up geometric shapes in certain ways and doing things with your pencil. And so learning how to take this test well electronically is a whole different thing. So I would encourage students to just say, hey, there are going to be a lot of opportunities to take this test on paper in the fall, and later this summer. So for now, let's just aim for those tests, and don't try to just jump into this and plan on this whole electronic testing thing. But, if for some reason this thing stretches on, that may be the route we need to take.
Right. So you just gave us a whole lot of information.
I know. Right.
So let me kind of recap that. My takeaway is we're expecting that in August, the students can take the SAT and ACT right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. We also are hearing that in the fall, there's going to be some extra opportunities to take virtual tests. And that also what's planned is in the fall for ACT, they're going to allow the students to take one portion of the test at a time at centers outside of the normal.
Yeah,
right?
That was the original plan. But the most important thing, I think, is that there's going to be a lot of regular, traditional dates for SATs and ACTs added. So instead of like normally in the fall, you have like the August, October, December. Those are the SAT dates, right? August, October, November, December. Those are the SAT dates. And then ACT, you have September, like November, February, or something like that, right? And so now there should be basically every month there should be an ACT and ACT, I hope, is what this is going to mean.
Yeah, that sounds like a no-brainer, Bobby. Why? I mean, is that going to be difficult for them? Is there anything that's going to change?
Well, the only difficulty is if suddenly we have some gigantic second wave of COVID and we're all locked down like this again in the fall, right? Like,
Right.
in which case, if that's what happens, then who knows what's going to happen. And I think what's the possibility is that some states are going to be having waves or something. And so I think globally for the, like, I think most of the United States is going to be open. But the thing to keep in mind about this, like the July ACT test date and the August SAT test date. So the July and August, so if you forget about the fact that COVID-19 is going on, if we were just doing this podcast regularly a year ago and I were talking about, okay, we have the July ACT test date and the August SAT test date coming up, the thing I would have said last year is, okay, everybody keep in mind that in July and August, high schools are shut down. They're not open, right? Except maybe for summer school or something. So if you register for those, keep in mind that, like, there are a lot fewer seats open because, like, normally when you register for the July or August, there are a whole bunch of high schools you can choose from, right? But not that many high schools open up to do those test dates. And like, I had students last summer who they showed up for their July ACT test date, and the school had forgotten to turn on the air conditioning or whatever. And when they went in the day before to turn on the air conditioning, and something exploded and the entire school got flooded with water. And so there was no ACT test, So like, weird things can happen. You can show up, there's no air conditioning, it's 115 degrees in the school. All sorts of strange things can happen in July and August, like with those test dates. So just register for and that's my number one piece of advice for everybody is, if you have a junior who hasn't gotten their score yet, register for that June and July ACT if you haven't yet, and register for that August SAT test date as soon as it becomes open to register for. It's not yet, I don't think. Go and register for these tests so that you get a seat, because there are limited numbers of seats, right? Those who are students in Texas, at least watching, it does seem likely that the June and July ACTs may actually happen now that Texas is opening up as of tomorrow. If Texas is opening up, then it is certainly possible. But I mean, you think about like that. So Julie, back to your question, like, Julie, do you live? What state do you live in, Julie? I mean, if you live in a state where things are opening up, and you think about like that, like the practicalities of the June ACT test, right? Those tests, the proctors for those tests are generally teachers, right? It's going to be held in a high school building. That school building likely, every state, the schools are shut down. They're going to have to go open that school up, turn on all the schools, unlock all the doors in classrooms that haven't been opened in 3 months, right? I assume, right? You got to go find all these teachers who, what state are they even in? Like, they might be sheltering with families months, who are they going to get to proctor these tests, right?
Hey, Bob,
So you think about all that.
Yeah, a question on that too, because as things are opening up, there have this distancing, the social distancing piece. So are we expecting that less seats will be open, or
well, see, that's the issue. So like, so right now, like, if that's why I think the June ACT test has to be canceled, because it depends whether places are going to be in phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3 in June, right? Because if a place gets to phase 3 or whatever, then maybe you can just do a regular SAT, right? But phase 1 is people have to be social distanced. Yeah. So Julie, you're here in Dallas. Like if Dallas is still in phase 1, then you can't have an ACT in June. But Dallas maybe would be on to phase 2 by June, in which case you could maybe, right? But yeah, like you would have to cut all the seats, and maybe that's what that second. Okay, so now I think I just got it. That's what that second week later ACT date is for. Of course, that's what it's for. I can't believe I didn't catch that till now. Okay, so that's why they added the 1 week later ACT date. They're going to take half the students, bump them a week later, and say you take the ACT a week later. That's how you cut the number of seats in half. And then that's how you get the social distancing. You cut the number of students in half in the classrooms, add more classrooms, and then that's how you space the students out and make them 6 feet apart in the classrooms. Because I will tell you, the last time I took it, I was not 6 feet away from the students.
Right. You said that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You're real bunched up.
You're at the end of the half hour.
Yeah.
So what I heard is just sign up for those tests, sign up, get your spot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Right. Get a spot. Right. And the thing is right now, just be comfortable with the fact that, I mean, you can see that like I am completely immersed in this and studying it and reading all the things, and I'm confused about it. Right. So like I am completely in the know about it and I don't know what's going to happen. Right. So be just like with everything else about the situation. Don't be worried about the fact that it's very confusing right now. Just know that we're all confused and we're going to know a whole lot more like we have this whole time. We're going to know more a few weeks from now. Trust that we're going to know more. And you can always contact me. So you can find me at bobbyhoodonlinetutoring.com. You can email me at bobbyhoodonlinetutoring.com. There's a contact me form on that website as well, but you can always just email me at that number. And always happy to answer questions. I'm also at Facebook at facebook.com/BobbyHoodOnlineTutoring. We're always happy to answer questions. We do this every Thursday or every other Thursday, depending on how COVID-y the situation is. And, you know, like we've been doing it every Thursday for a while during the situation, because I know there are a lot of updates that we wanted to give to people. And Julie, I'm so happy to get to talk to you today. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully we were able to help answer some of your questions. And this has been great. So Kristin, what else do you have? What are we going to be talking about next week?
Well, and we had several people chime in too during the show to give us likes and smiles and all that good stuff. So we love having guests. Always feel free to put some comments into the comment box. And, you know, again, Bobby said reach out to either of us. You can catch me at KristinClark.com. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about helping to select a major and, you know, just how we can help your kids. So reach out. We're here to help.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I see Deidre Fisher that you were watching. I appreciate it. And Teresa Watt and Pam Varnell. That's so great. Thank you, everyone, for watching. That's so cool.
Teresa's one of my teachers in grade school.
Aw, that's so wonderful.
And then Pam's a client of mine. So
oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we're looking forward to it. So yeah, next week that'll be great. And all right, well, so looking forward to it again next week. Thank you so much, Kristin.
Okay, bye.